Okay, I think we got everything in order. You know, when you do one kind of streaming for a while and you switch to something else, it takes a while to remember how to do it. I've been doing only the video games now for, I guess, a couple weeks. And I'm like, oh, let's just do a regular paint. Let's do a paint night. I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And I don't want to tinker with too many things and mess up the settings when I do go back to play Armored Commander. I got to remember how the heck that is again. But anyhow, here we are on the painting desk, which has not seen much activity the last couple weeks. So we need to make room here. Okay, fine. Don't go in that drawer. Go in this one. All right. That's the super glue that we're holding upside down. That was the right move to do that. Instead of buying a little Loctite one that was a tiny little amount, just buy one. Okay, so this is the stuff that we had over at the spray desk. And some of these things are finished and some things aren't, but I wanted to go ahead and bring them in. Get these parts of this old verbal, then we'll finish that whenever we get around to finishing it. We need to close shop on some of these things that we have started. Okay, yeah, because like this stuff isn't even in display. It's just basically done. These are all winter Soviets. So. Okay, and then we have a couple Panthers here. It looks like the wrong effing color completely, but don't be too quick to judge. It's a late wars game, so that one, and that's an Italy ready to be built one, and then this one just has the primer red on it. It's awfully shiny. Obviously that'll come off later, but it's going to have 3-color camouflage on it. This is just a base red that's on it, literally the primer red. And then this is another one of the Hasegawa Panthers that this one's already in 3-color, so and we have the tracks that came off of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to since we're doing some things that are going to take some time to dry, let's go ahead and move those things forward. These two Panthers need the brown wash on them. This one's not done. I just brought it in because it was sitting out there. I want to do something really cool with it, kind of like my Yag Tiger that I was really happy with how that turned out. I just winged that one completely. Or maybe it was inspired by a picture of something else. But anyways, I want to do 3-color on this. So, but I want to use this as the primer red as one of the colors. So we'll set that one aside. These two need to get the brown wash. And we'll go ahead and do that. And then we have the Winter Panzer IIIs. They don't get a brown wash on them. So let's see if we can move the ball forward with some of these things. And get our cutting area. I don't mind cutting on this, but I don't want to paint on it. They have these smudges of unusual color. We'll move this over to the other side. We'll come back to them in a little bit after the brown is dried. And all we're going to do is we're going to use old strong tone here. Are my super readers up here? They're over there. I'm going to need them, probably. I really don't prefer working on multiple things at once, but sometimes there are things that you have to wait for them to dry, so you might as well keep making room. One thing that's working really well, at least I think so, is the smoke color on the end of the barrel, which I don't even paint that. That's literally the black primer. I just don't airbrush over it. So it's like save a step, you know. Strong tone, yep. From Army Paint Painter. And we can cut this down with water. Cuts down nicely. Let's go ahead and pull these brushes off. They're plenty dry. They've been hanging upside down for weeks. This brush should do fine. And we're going to go ahead and remove the turrets. And all we're going to do in this step is basically make it look like it's there's some variation to the color on it, so it doesn't look like it just came out of the factory this way. It doesn't necessarily even have to be that heavy of a color. This is the old Hasegawa kit. I think this is the third one of these that I have. It's old, but you know, it works. It's worth $2. That's what I got it for. And I'm not necessarily solely driven by price, but the reality is I already have 8 Panthers. So what's going to get me to buy that 9th, 10th, and 11th one? $2 a piece. Okay, I'll get them. It's not like I can walk into a store and get them. So these Italeri ones are coming in a 2-pack, and they're about $20 for 2 of them. So, you know, paying a tenth off, or 90% off is worth it. I just wish they had Zimmer it, so a Panther G with no Zimmer is basically going to be like not at Normandy. It's like post Normandy. You're talking probably something around like Market Garden, probably the earliest, maybe even later than that. They just standard came out of the factory all the way through like, I think it was September, October, something like that. And then they realized, oh, we're taking all these steps to prevent these magnetic mines, which the enemy doesn't use. More faulty intelligence on by the Germans. Masters of faulty intelligence. Masters of falling for it. This couple 3 hours will be ready to go to the next step, but overnight works too. Yeah, this is the one where I put no paint on it. Airbrush that. There's an opportunity to work on some fine motor skills with airbrush, which I'm telling you, it's not easy. I mean, I'm infinitely better than when I started, but I don't have nowhere near the level of confidence that I do with hand painting stuff, so. I got 2 years of practice using an airbrush and 40 years of practice using a paintbrush. So I'm like a little bit more experience than the other one. I know there's other products other than these water-based products, but I just don't see any point in using them if they don't like really provide any better benefits. It's just a hassle to have to wash things in thinner, clean your brushes in thinner when you could just use water and hand sanitizer for that matter. Okay, so this has got a nice wash on the back of that. Yeah, nice wash there. Okay, so we'll let that dry, and here's the business end here of the Panther. I like doing effects that could be many different things. Is it grime? I don't know. Is it weathering? Could be any of those things. You don't have to decide. Okay. Looks infinitely better than before I did the wash. It just adds more depth. You know, some different colorations. I hate calling it modulation because it just seems so technical. Okay, that's one. And this is the Panther that anybody with an untrained eye would think I painted it the wrong color. And I would kind of agree with him. It looks like it's the wrong color. But this is a really like early 1945 type paint scheme. So we'll let these dry, and then we'll go and mess with the snow vehicles. A little bit of water. Yeah, we haven't sat down and painted in a couple weeks. It's supposed to be a model show in Jacksonville that I may or may not go to. So depending if I go to it or not, we'll have a Saturday morning session here. You know, just to wander. I'm not going to compete or anything. Like, so many people are just dying to be judged. Like, I don't care if other people like my stuff. I like it. Yeah, it already looks so much better. Just adds extra depth, and that's not all the dirt and stuff that we're gonna have on it. That's just subliminal little shadows or whatever. And the airbrushing actually on this one turned out all right. I mean, Yeah, I'm doing 1/72nd. It's not like I'm doing 1/35th. I'll never build another 1/35th scale model. That takes way too long. You can't game with them. I mean, I guess you could, but man, the buildings would be expensive. It's really expensive. Used to use Agrax Earthshade, and they changed the formulation of it. It'd like dry too fast and get sticky, and I really like Games Workshop paints and stuff, but then they get a wild hair up their ass and change the formula for whatever reason, and it all goes sideways. So it makes it really difficult to become loyal to them because they keep moving the football. They make a good product and they move the football. Okay, that looks infinitely better than it did before. The greens are weird. The German greens are really, really odd. You think that they're more lively, and they're not. They got a lot of gray in them. Well, this one's almost like a lime. This has some nice detailing in it. Even though they're like quick build kits, they got a lot more detail than the Hasegawa kit. They're a lot more modern. The Hasegawa kits, I think, from the late 70s or something like that. Certainly the early 80s, or nowhere newer than the early 80s. Didn't miss anything on it, right? Yeah, if I did, you can come back and touch it up. It'd just be nice to do it, with a minimum of drama the first time. All right. So that part's done. We got to sit there and let these guys dry. So we got extra pieces of this cardboard. We're going to move this back. So central location. And we're going to trade with these Panzer IIIs. Panzer IIIs. And this is the one that's almost done. And I didn't want the snow camo to look too rough. It needs to look like, they put it together with some intelligence. Just like my Soviet camouflage looks a lot better than they would in real life. I think during this operation, a lot of these tanks weren't even painted camouflage. They weren't even painted white. They just run them in dirt and, they'll become one with the earth. They'll look like they've been playing in the terrain because they've been playing in the terrain. All right. So let's grab a different one. Not that we couldn't use that same one, but I have a little one around here somewhere. Is it that one? I think it might be it. We're going to take another Matchbox one. Say this one. And this is actually a washable paint. So you're supposed to like be able to take water and rub some of it off. Now, I've waited a couple weeks, so you probably can't do that, but I had no intention of actually doing that at all. I could have just as easily used white paint for this. So what we're going to do is, I think I did it in this order. I went and gave it another coat of this. Like it's, like it's picked up some of it, or it's been patched up by humans or something. And I want to grab something that's relatively, not one that's too big. I think that one's going to be too big. Something that resembles maybe somebody touching it up with actual paintbrushes. Now the reality is you can do this as rough as you want and it'll still look believable, because if you look at pictures of these of this stuff, it's just haphazard many times. Let's try it with this. And we're going to get most of this off. And this is just the old Matchbox Panzer IIIL. This one's straight from the kit. We had a little jack on there. That's all we did. Other than that, it's just straight from the kit. I don't want to cover up too much of the camouflage. Otherwise, why even bother doing it if you're going to make them look all the same? Yeah, out of the rut. My Bacchus miniatures will be here this week. Too bad I've been playing lots of U-Boat. Yeah. I just want to do something different. I got an offer for a sponsorship. They're throwing some free stuff at me. So I'm like, well, I got to knock some of this stuff out. And to make room. So just this week, I really need to close some of these open items, so to speak. You know, I don't remember the last time I stopped working on a project, whatever that might be, because it wasn't turning out well. If I lose momentum, it's not because it's not turning out well. I don't remember the last, fortunately. It's just that there's just a lot going on, you know, and sometimes just don't feel like it. It's a hobby. You should do it whenever you wanted to. You want it wherever you want to do it. They're not going to get stuck in customs. Hopefully not. So you like that U-boat thing, huh? At least for now. How difficult is it? Because there's some people out there, I'm not saying you're one of them, there's some people that always complain, this game's too easy. Well, how about get a job then? You know, like, get out of your mom's basement and get a job. I mean, I don't want everything to be a cakewalk, but... Okay, so now now you've got kind of some overpaint on it. You can still see that camouflage that's on there. And yet, it looks different than this one, but not so different. You know, like that white paint, like, you know, get it out quick. We can't spend, you know, they would have loved to have painted it all white, but, you know, the Russians are coming. All right, so we're going to do the same thing with this one. This has something that's tied up here at the top. I may end up painting it red and make it look like it's one of those crooked spider flags all folded up. I may do that. Of course, it's all rolled up, so you can't really tell what it is. Seems like they cleared through customs. U-Boat has a lot of settings, so you can go from World of Warships to near simulation. World of Warships, yes. That's no simulation at all. But you know, it's okay, you know. I don't care what you're doing. There's always a degree of unrealism no matter what you're doing, you know. I was playing yesterday with Don. I was falling asleep yesterday. After we did one battle, right? Yeah, and I was falling asleep. And he had texted me while I was in the middle of the battle. He's like, "Hey, you want to play some War Thunder today?" I'm like, "Well, maybe at 9." I was doing my show. I was like, "Okay, well, we'll just do one battle." And I was like falling asleep, and luckily it woke me up. What we were doing, but I wouldn't play that if it wasn't with him. It's just the socializing aspect's nice. So we played some Italian planes, which is always kind of fun. On this one, I want to make sure that it still has some areas that look like they didn't camouflage it. Like they just left it in the gray. It's still going to get weathered and stuff, but I want the stripes to be kind of visible. So I was just doing a light smattering of this one. Yeah, with the video games, I don't have time to do a whole bunch of them at once. Like I've been grinding the Diablo 4 thing, trying to get through the end of the season, and I think I got everything unlocked except one thing. But some of those games they're just too damn hard. You know, to try to get to certain levels, they're just too damn difficult. Had to use like a build guide to get like to go even deeper. Like, you know, all these combinations of stuff that I wouldn't normally use. That's like the first time I've actually done that with any Diablo game, actually. I think that's it. We still want to leave those bands on there. Okay, then the other one that's the command one is this one, which is a totally different manufacturer. Yeah, I had a guy that makes tanks, so and I bought from them before, miniature tank company. So we're gonna decide what we're gonna do. And I think it's going to be something that I don't already have. You know, probably of all the manufacturers, miniature tanks company is probably the material they use is probably the most durable of anybody. I've never seen a material this durable. Like, you know, you can let somebody that, you know, you don't trust play with them, and they're probably not going to mess them up, you know? So, what's up, Justin? From the frozen north. This one's got the extra armor plates on it. This is going to be the commander tank. But I think I'm gonna get some Churchills. I think I'm gonna get some Churchills. Yes, I'll dry brush this, but it's still gonna have like a black wash on it, and then we'll come back and dry brush it again. But it's really, really, there's hardly any paint on here. And I don't want to eliminate the mottled appearance of this, you know. I still want to paint the track and all that kind of stuff. One of these days, I'm going to do I've kind of done it off and on, but a deep dive of how much stuff I got. It's ridiculous how many tanks I have. It's ridiculous, you know. But I'm not worried about it from the standpoint like, oh, you're never going to play a game with them. Like, look, what about the guys that build models? They don't. You know, the problem is like, I don't have any display space anymore. Like, it's all consumed. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. That looks really good. And obviously there's more to do to it, but that looks good as a starting point. You know, they all look different, but they don't look that different. You know. Yeah, this has the drippings on it, and the and the black lining and stuff. Churchill tank videos keep showing up. Why? Because I said Churchill? So I actually solved one of my YouTube issues. You know, I've been ranting. It's not really a rant if I'm being done wrong, I guess. But anyhow. So I was getting like my demonetized because I was doing it. And I like, this just can't be happening. You know, like it's happened 3 times, and then in the last 2 days I've gotten 2 more. So now we're up to 5 or 6, and luckily I didn't do anything with the videos. I just like let me do a deep dive and find out what's going on here. And apparently, if I register my YouTube channel with the editor that I pay for, I'm not even using a free editor because it's easy to use. Oh, you just buy a free editor. Yeah, they're a pain in the ass to use. Okay. DaVinci Resolve is free. It's like super complicated. Okay, maybe if I did that for a living, it wouldn't be so bad. But the editor, if you register with it, then it basically it supposedly takes care of that problem. So I did that this morning, and the three other videos that had these, you know, you're going to be demonetized for them, like it went away. So like that works. So we shouldn't have that problem again. Thank goodness. Start doing posts and short videos. Nah, it's too much work, man. I got to do this. I'm not a video guy, you know. I got to do stuff that works for me, and if it works for other people, that's cool. But you can't just sit there and do things for other people, and then as soon as I start doing like specific things for other people, I have this expectation that I should get more views. I mean, even if it's not a torrential amount of views, but like say twice as many views, and it isn't there, right? So I'm like, in order to not get demoralized, that's probably a little too extreme of a word. I'll do what I do, and if it works for other people, it works for other people. I was looking up videos on T34s and KV1s and KV2s. I guess YouTube thought Churchill is what I wanted to see next. I don't know. They don't know what you're into. You might be interested in clown girls or something like that. And does it show you that stuff? Oh, that was Ben. Ben was dropping the clown girls thing. I didn't even know that was a thing. But anyways, over the weekend, I went to go on Sunday. I went to go visit the guy that got me to do the first. He didn't get me. I figured if he could do it, I could do it, and I was right. Videos for the DBA videos, long time ago, and he had disappeared off the face of the earth. I went to go visit him at his store, and what he told me was his YouTube and his Facebook got hacked. And they were like, he had all kinds of like monetary issues. But, he has a store, a small store, albeit, but still, that's what he does for a living. So he left the platform. So I'm like, well, luckily I haven't had that kind of a problem yet. But he's like, yeah, I just use his Instagram and Discord. And I'm like, Discord is just really, really unfriendly to begin with. I've dabbled with it. It is just not, it is counterintuitive in so many ways. So, I'm going to keep doing what I do until it becomes a pain in the ass. And then, okay, well, I guess we'll have to do something different. I have been suggested a clown girl reviewing magic wands before. What kind of magic wands? I do not have any T55s, though. I do like how they look. They're modern, so. Yeah, so now we're going to do this black line and make these little things pop on here. And I did one basically all the way, and I like how it turned out. It's like, all right, we're on the right track. I don't have any T55s. I don't have any T62s. I don't have any modern tanks at all. I don't mind never playing with these tanks, but I do want to build them with the idea of that it could be for a World War II game. That said, if I had to do something modern, I'd probably do Yom Kippur War stuff. But this is really a condensed scale. Well, the first war game I played was actually was that conflict. It was this old game called Barlev from like 1974. It's like a year after the war they came out with this game, and it's Panzerblitz style, and then it's this unit has this many factors, and you combine them to try to get 2-to-1s and stuff on, it has that stuff that makes it, seem not very crunchy. But yeah, we're doing this for a little bit, and I stopped my Car Wars stuff here, kind of in midstream where I was doing. I just realized I have a lot of stuff that I haven't even used. I'm like, why am I going to create more things for that? Especially since we're only playing like once a month or something like that. I'm not saying I'm not going to go back. Those I have, but that's actually in a really condensed place. So even though I have hundreds of those to do, they're all like in one bin. These guys are everywhere, because they're like these are finished. I got nowhere to put them. I know, send them over to you. I know. Yeah. I need to get rid of those buildings and put them up there, but. And none of these are like the best models ever. Actually, I would say these are some of the worst models made of some of these Soviet vehicles. But you paint them up, you give them some TLC, and they look great. That's why I have so many of them. I mean, if I was like, oh, let me buy the best one, and the best one costs $25. Well, how many tanks you got? 6. Well, instead of 600. Well, I don't quite have 600, but how many unbuilt? Define unbuilt models. How about unfinished completely? I don't know. I truly don't know the answer. Like these are finished. Okay, they may not be out there, but they're complete. I don't know if I'm going to put them on a stand or not. Doesn't matter. They're complete. They're sealed. All that's done. And some of them were just like a disaster. Like these, I was doing these live. They had no undercarriage on these things or axles. They just had these wheels. Here, put them on there. And you put a wheel, and then you could see right through the bottom. Like that doesn't work, you know? So I just built this stuff out of balsa, you know? But I basically got these like for free. I think they turned out pretty good for free. Hey, they still got good headlights. You know? So, I probably have about 160 complete. And I probably have, not in there, probably 50 or 60 something. Maybe. But, you know, I got them for like $2 a piece. I'm like, I'm not passing that up. You know? Like, these were all $2 a piece. These Panthers were actually 2 of them for $2 a piece. Like, you know, I can't pass that up. You know, and like I've said before, like, even if I just build them and I don't paint them, and that's not happening, you know, but even if I just do that, I think it's worth $2. I think for gaming, I'm almost more likely to just do solo games and just put it on the other table instead of like trying to get everything ready. You know, turn my house upside down, try to get a game in with other people that have, you know, screwy schedules. It's like, you know, but it's just not really any kind of sense of urgency because I don't need that to make me happier to build the tanks. You know, I just enjoy doing them. What scale is that? This one is 1/76. This is an old Matchbox kit that I got at a flea market for $2. Now, not a flea market, but a flea market at a game convention for $2. And I actually left some stuff for $2 I didn't pick up. Like he had like I think 3 or 4 more T-34 model 1940s. Well, hell, I got 12 of them, and I've only built like 7 because they're just so rare. They only made like 100 of them, which is still 100 tanks. That's 100 for the Soviets is not a lot of tanks. But this is the scale that I do. I only do 1/72nd. I prefer 1/72nd, but 1/72nd, 1/76. That's the scale I do. I don't do 1/48. Oh God, I don't do 1/48. I don't do 28 millimeter stuff. I'm not a 28 millimeter gamer. I would do 15 millimeter before I'd be 28 millimeter, and 15 millimeter just it wasn't a thing when I started doing stuff. What about Dicker Max tanks? Well, there's 2 of those, right? Dicker Max, and what's the other one I always get? Sturr and Email. Both of those are 2 each, and I don't have either one of them. Dicker Max looks a lot better than Sturr Email. The Sturr looks deformed. Now, it's got a hell of a nastier gun because it's got a 128 in it. You hit anybody, they're toast. Like, it's over, you know. But they only made 2 of those. And they got really weird interwoven running gear. Actually, they both might have interwoven running gear. But Dicker Max actually looks really good. It's a good looking vehicle. It's like a Super Stug, you know. Got a 105, which is, you know, nothing to poo-poo. Although I think the performance on the 105 is probably really similar to the 75 that's not on the Panther. Because when it came out, It came out in like August or September '42, and I don't think either one of them. I get confused, but one of the two they went into Stalingrad push, and then like one of them was like destroyed, and one of them was like got stuck in the pocket or something like that. But they only made two of them, and I could have it wrong. Stir Emo might actually be the one that happened to, but yeah, I don't have any of those. I don't have a Stern Tiger either. The rarest vehicle I have is probably um, the rarest vehicle I have. Probably the Yag Tiger. But they still made like 50 of those or something like that. So, I mean, it's not that rare. It's not like, I mean, they're as rare as the T-35s. I got a book on the T-35s. I bought it virtually, and literally this guy followed, like, the Soviet multi-turreted T-35. And he literally tracked down every one of them and where they were knocked out with pictures. It's like, man, it was like this guy's religion. Yeah, these guys. You know? Solo games, just the game that Face of Battle. Face of Battle solo. I played four, something like that. It's for the narrative. It's just for the narrative. It's the same reason I'm playing the tank game. It's just for the narrative. Have you gotten into that, or you got distracted by the U-boat? I'm almost starting to think that the tank game's too easy. I know. As soon as I say that, he'll die. And I've died before. It's just, we're trying to be careful. We've had a lot of close calls. We've had a lot of close calls. But I like that concept of like play through that game with vehicles that I actually have. Like I actually have the, T-34 number 13. Okay, well, use that in the game. In Armored Commander. But I've played, I think, four games. One of them took two turns. And I think I did a learning game. The one with the tanks. It's just a lot of it's a lot of work. So like, how bad do I want to do the narrative? You know, got have I gotten in face of battle? You make the tank game look easy. You should see me play, buttoned up and shooting at unseen targets. Well, you think about it. You know, it's when I started doing those DBA battles, and I'm like, you know what? Instead of people asking me what was I thinking, let me just do all my thoughts out loud. And it helps focus to make sure that you don't screw up. And occasionally I'll say one thing, but I really mean something else. You got your mouth running faster than your brain, kind of thing. But it's just easier just to say, okay, well, I'm doing this. Well, I could be a guy over there, so let's unbutton, but not this guy. Just to, it's all like basically gambling. You're gambling with these guys' lives. But a lot of this stuff becomes really repetitive. Like, you got the guy that's like the assistant machine gunner. What's he doing most of the time? Passing ammo. I mean, unless there's infantry that it's like at point blank range. The only reason there'd be infantry in point blank range is somebody screwed up, right? His whole job should be to not have to ever fire his whole machine gun. If he's firing his whole machine gun, you're too close to the enemy infantry. Do you have any issues painting 176 because it's soft plastic? So these are not soft plastic. I do have soft plastic figures, and I've been lucky. I was petrified of doing it. Where's my phone? Because I have to show you something. Because, well, it's time to toot my own horn. Because there's some things that are like, I've been doing this a while, and then there's just something you end up doing something that just blows your own mind away. Just like, I can't believe how good this turned out. and soft plastic figures is one of them. Now, if you're familiar with the Airfix figures, let's grab some guys that have been around for a long time. These are soft plastic figures. Now I'm terrified of being rough with them. Okay, so I'm not. But what I did was because I remember when I was a kid, or maybe it was because this is what my dad told me. Oh, you got to paint them with enamels because the enamels stick to the plastic better. That's true, but the problem is the plastic gives, and if you don't have a paint that's also pliable to a degree, if you apply it too much, it's going to fall off no matter what. Then it's gonna come off. So they are primed with they're washed in dish soap, left to dry. Then I believe I put a light coating of white glue and water to stiffen them up a little bit. Let that dry. Then we used a Vallejo primer, because this is what I had at the time, and anything that's acrylic or polyurethane, because I prime everything in black, and then I just painted them normally, and then I made sure that I didn't use a clear coat sealer that wasn't also polyurethane or acrylic, and I haven't had anything come off of them yet, but these guys are the sculptor. These are the Airfix, or in my case, MPC, that I got probably around 1982. I never, ever, ever, ever thought I was going to ever paint these figures. And, yeah, this is the problem. It's too effing bright. It ends up reflecting too much of the light back to the camera. Yeah, this isn't quite right either, but I'm a terrible picture taker. Maybe we'll put it up here, but not directly at him. I think that was the secret. Still a little blurry. But the sculpting on these figures is amazing. And I just painted them the same way I would any white metal figures. And I was so impressed. Now, I don't want 6 of guys in the same pose, but I don't mind having 2 of them, because you can make the helmets slightly different from each other. You make them, they all have names. This is Harrison with 2 S's, but these are the usual suspects from the Airfix crew. And they paint up really well. I always had discounted plastic figures like, I can't do anything with plastic figures, but man, there's some good sculpting on them. They have really good sculpts on these guys. And they're basically free, because I've had them since I was a kid. Since I was like 11 years old or something like that. I've lost guys along the way, and it happens. But yeah, I have no problem with soft plastic figures. And but I'm still, I'm leery of it. Now, the one thing I don't like about them is they don't weigh very much. But the good thing about them not weighing very much, is if they fall somewhere, they don't weigh enough, they're going to crush themselves. That's the problem with white metal things. Is I used to like metal tanks. Well, the problem with metal tanks is if they fall on the ground, it's just it's done. It's over, game over. So. Yeah, we got this down, and it's easy to replicate, at least for me, and be able to make it look like the same person did them all. That was one of my fears, is I'd do them at different times and be like, oh, this one looks like it's made by different people. But I'd never done snow vehicles before, and. I really liked how they turned out. It's like a combination between them looking kind of like a cartoon, I keep saying that, but a graphic novel, and realistic. I don't like realistic looking vehicles, 100% realistic. I don't like how they look. You know, that doesn't mean they're not done right, but you need to have a certain amount of contrast so that they're 3 or 4 feet away from you. You can still make out all the details. If you make them look realistic, it's all going to be a blah. You know, until you get really, really close to them. You know, so. And this is one of the things that we do to make all those details pop up. Is we put a little thin black line around all the details, so they, you know, you're forcing these fake shadows. You know. And this takes a long time to do, but I actually think I really enjoy this part because it's very relaxing. Like there's no hurry to do this. It's very forgiving. And I've just given up on doing using decals for the German crosses. I'll just hand paint them because there's so many times that you need to get one right here at this little hull portion. You can't find one that's the right size. It's too big, that kind of stuff, you know. So, yeah, they look pretty good, man. Yeah. Thanks for coming by. I'm on here. I don't usually do this not on the channel like this. I'm usually like always on, and I need your guys' interest to keep me on track. It's not that I'm not interested in this, but you know, just being able to talk about it keeps me on task. One thing I want to do when I get a chance, I don't know when it's going to be, I'm going to do a comparison with an airbrush of the 3 primers, which is Vallejo, Strolinils, or whatever the hell it's called, the Badger one, and then the One Shot. I picked up some One Shot, so I have all 3. I have a feeling that they're not as different from each other as people think they are, but they're not super durable in and of themselves. Once you put paint on them, I think they do fine, but if you don't put paint on them, you know, you can like rub off the corners and stuff like that. Like it looks like you made a mistake before you even started on the model, so a lot of people like get gold feet, but that the magic formula through the airbrush for the avoiding the tip dry is a game changer. But you know, you could hand paint that as well. It's just kind of hard to hand paint something that watery on a surface that's really flat because you end up like, you know, moving around. It's like, you know, trying to use a wet mop on a floor that doesn't absorb anything. It's like all you're doing is pushing stuff around. And you put some on and then you like wipe it off in the same action. So brush painting works for like little areas, but if you're doing like big sections, it's kind of a pain. Airbrush works better for that. That's the only reason I airbrush with it, is just for coverage. And this camouflage, I mean, I could probably do this. I've done camouflages like this, hand paint it. You just dry brush. You know, it just takes a while, but it's like a lot more forgiving. That's for damn sure. Not that you know, when you have a mistake, it's catastrophic. We just have to go back and correct things. And I'd rather just keep moving forward in a positive direction, not having to go back and fix things. Because the airbrush is just, you know, it just has, even though I've gotten significantly better at it, I'll never be as good at airbrushing as I hand painting. You know, and it's the trigger control. You know, you got a trigger that, you know, say moves this far, but you can only travel the very first 16th of an inch. If you go farther than that, you just sprayed too much. You know, I wish there was a way you could adjust it. And maybe you can with a really expensive airbrush, but we don't need to do that. You know, we got about $300 between the airbrush and the compressor. That's enough money. It works fine for what we needed to do. So I keep wanting to do is like, okay, well, if I do British tanks, I could do how I paint the British tanks things. But every time I do one of those how to paint things, like, I'm always fighting with a camera. Because I'm doing stuff here. I can't really mind what's going on the camera and seeing if it's mainly seeing if it's in register, right? Like you need it's somebody else to do that. So I don't mind sharing my secrets. I don't really want them to turn into like arguing points, like that one guy that was just had a hard on for using enamel paints, and anybody who didn't use enamel paints was an idiot. I'm like, first of all, no. I don't do videos really to push a narrative or to force people to do something a certain way. And same thing, like, man, I don't like how that turned out. Let's not do that at all. You don't have to be ugly to them, your method's shit, like, be kind. I know there was this one particular game designer who's passed away a few years ago, and he's a prolific game designer. I'm not going to tell you who he is, even if you guess who it is. But he'd be on discussion groups, and he had this chip on his shoulder, and I'm like, I get it. You're like a prolific game designer, and there's some people that are like they really are idiots and trying to cause trouble, but you can't treat every single person that asks you questions like that, like they're like that. Your old basing video, how I found you, I think. I could never get my bases looking half decent, almost quit the hobby. Well, I still base the same way. I don't seal everything the same way because those materials aren't available anymore. You know? So yeah, see that's the whole thing. It kept you from quitting the hobby. You know? And I'm not saying you're a quitter. I'm just saying, you run across stuff there's things you encounter that makes you not want to do it again. Like, I've had bad experiences in school writing papers. I don't know. I never want to write another paper again. Or do algebra 2, or something like that. God forbid. I'm good at math, but not the make-believe, abstract, ridiculous-ass numbers. Yeah, here's some stuff that I can repeat. It works well for me. It's repeatable. In other words, you don't want to oh man, this base looks great on this army, and then 2 bases later it looks like trash. Like it needs to be able to be repeatable, and not exhausting to do, and it still turn out okay. Yeah, no, I don't want a Patreon. Like I'll give it to you I'll give it for free. By the way, I'll advertising just to take Google's money, not yours. You know. Still haven't found a better basing method. Well, I've changed a little bit. I add a couple little rocks and stuff. Sometimes I'm really happy with it. Um, I pretty much use the same thing for everybody, unless the desert. I had to come up. I had to come up with a different one for the desert because obviously can't use the same colors and it look right. But yeah, it works pretty well. And most of those things use products that are at least readily available where I live, because you're going to go through a lot of basing stuff. In the course of a few years, you're going to go through the basing material and that kind of stuff. Tufts. It's good to be able to try to use what you have available, so you're not spending more in shipping than the item costs. And luckily, I don't really have a hobby store here in town, but there's lots of game stores. There's maybe 5. It might be like 5 gaming stores. And one of them has the entire line of everything Vallejo. And then another one has some Games Workshop. One guy has all the Games Workshop stuff. So and no, I don't mean Hobby Lobby. Every time I go to Hobby Lobby, it's like less of a reason to go in there. That place is really There's a couple stores like that. They were like really good several years ago, and then they just like, well, what if we cut off? Yeah, I know we provide a good service for our customers, but what if we cut all the corners? What then? Well, what then is I'm not going to go to your store because there's like nothing there. There's nothing there for me. You know, they're brushes. The brushes are good. These brushes are excellent, and they're what I would call cheap brushes. I don't see any point in buying $20 brushes. I know they're good. No, it's just peace. You know, it's peace of mind not having to worry about if something accidentally happens to one of your brushes. You know, that set that I bought from Ammo Meg, it came with really good brushes. Guess how many times I've used them? None. No, I don't need. You use these. We have tons of gaming stores, but I only know one Hobby Lobby type place: historical miniatures, Osprey books, etc. Wow, you're fortunate. We have nothing like that. Occasionally, you'd find like a Osprey book or something like that in like a Books A Million or something like that. But I'm not going to bookstores anymore. You know, I took all of my ancients books, my ancients and medieval books, which I had a lot of them. They're all in, Ospreys, all that kind of stuff, and boxed them up, not in a paper box, but in a plastic container, and they're in the garage. I need to make room for them. I'm not getting rid of them or anything, but they don't need to be front and center anymore because we're not doing that. We can't do everything. I still got a couple of guys like, so when are you gonna play DBA again? Like they don't understand when somebody says they're not gonna do something that they actually really mean it. Like it's keeping me from doing everything else. And like nobody shows up to play it. I mean, yeah, lots of people play it around the world, but I'm like I couldn't do anything more to promote it. So at this point, all it's doing is not getting any more players, and it's interfering me from painting gas lands and or tanks. So, Dibble's Hobbies is the name. It's been there since I was a kid. The owners are weird, but I guess that's how it is. Well, how weird? Because there's different levels of weird, right? Like weird, like you shouldn't be around a kid, or weird, like you're just eccentric. I don't know. Are we all eccentric? There's different levels of eccentricity, different levels of nerddom too. Like everybody nerds out about something, or multiple things, but not like, oh, I like this so much I don't have time to take a shower. That's no, absolutely not. There's never a reason for that. Eccentric, yeah. Yeah, I had this one guy that had this old hobby store slash old toy store in Spain, and this guy is the most unfriendly son of a bitch I've ever met. Like I literally said good morning to him in Spanish, and he just ignored me like, what the fuck are you talking to me kind of thing. It's like, what the hell? I mean, I've never experienced anything. Even if, it's like you're nastier than people in New York. I mean, that's saying something. Like, you make New York people seem friendly. It's like, man, there's something wrong with you. But it was just that guy. Well, I went into Spray Gunner the other day, and the people that are usually there aren't there. So another guy was there who I didn't recognize. I mean, I don't go in there that often, but I mean, it is another town. But I went in there. All I ended up walking out with was the primer. I didn't need more color sets I'm fine enjoying the stuff that I have. It's not like I'm out of it or anything. But I go in there. The guy says, "Hey, you need any help?" I said, "Oh, I've been here many times." And that store is just like. That is like the most pleasant store to walk in because everything is just so orderly. It's so orderly. It's pleasant. It reminds me of a Home Depot, but it's shorter. I mean, it's not the roof isn't 40 feet away from you. It's 10. And it's got shelving and he's got little boxes that all have the codes like this. They don't even have anything on them. It'll say Ammo Meg 03 or whatever, and all like the paints are all in there. They're all. I mean, it's just like it is just pleasant as shit going in there. And they have great prices. They have, if something retails for, I don't know, $4, they have it for like $3.75 or something like that. All the airbrush supplies you might need. I mean, I didn't need any airbrush supplies, but that one little valve that I got that made it that quick disconnect, I got it from there. It's a great place. And they do good mail order too. It just happened to be that I was in that town. I was in Tampa last weekend, so. I was in Tampa last weekend and went to a theme park, and I realized it can actually be too cold to be in a theme park. That doesn't mean couldn't handle the cold. The rides couldn't. So like all the rides were basically closed because, it was under freezing, or it was close to freezing. And then the wind, like if there's more than like 20-mile-an-hour wind, steady wind, like they'll shut the rides down. Like if there's gusts and stuff, they won't do the rides. And thinking, well, that's kind of a shitty reason. But then I started thinking of, there's a lot of these rides that'll do like a big drop, and then it'll do a loop-de-loop, like a roller coaster. And then you're way far away. You're 3/4 of the way through the ride. Or you're 3/4 of the way through the ride, and the first thing that happens is the big drop to get the momentum going. You got to have enough momentum left over towards the end of the ride to still be able to do the last one or two corkscrews, or if there's a loop. So if you start running into all this like drag with the wind, yeah, it could be a problem. You don't want to like, okay, now we really have to shut everything down because we got these people who are stuck on this ride. So, but yeah, it was effing cold, and so we're like, well, I guess we'll leave early. Well, we had already gone there Saturday. We spent all day, or most of the day there Saturday. Same issue, but we got a chance to do some rides before weren't a lot of people to begin with. Did some rides there before they shut them down due to the wind. But you know what? I'd rather do that than sitting there one of those days where you go to the park and freaking get a rash because your balls are sweating so much. It's just like, I'm not going to freaking park when it's 100 fucking degrees. Like, F that, Now, I don't know if this has a little split line. Yeah, it is. It's just very fine. This is two doors here. This is called Biddles? Dibbles. That one that was in Calgary, that store was insane. And then I found out later that they got rid of all their historical stuff. I'm like, well, I guess I won't make a pilgrimage to Calgary again to go see it. Dibbles Hobbies. Oh, the front of this store looks like it's... Wow, it looks like it's on Route 66 in 1962 or something. Okay, he's got trains. Oh. Warhammer shit. I'm sorry, I meant to say Warhammer shit. Yeah, good old traditional hobby store. What kind of paints he got here? He's got Games Workshop. He's got something in spray cans. He's got Tamiya. There's the Plastruck rack. More Tamiya. I didn't realize Tamiya made their traditional alcohol-based paints, and now they make like these lacquers, which I guess are like enamels or something like that. Like I just thought it was just like their traditional. The Tamiya paint was awesome when it came out because that their lids, the only paints that you had back then were like, shit, I don't even have one because they don't last. The old Bottle Master ones where you just had like this crimped metal bottle and it had like this little cardboard thing that always would get all destroyed, wouldn't be good at anything, and end up leaking and shit. That's what everybody had. And then Tamiya paint came along. It's not perfect because the lid is hard plastic, but it is molded. Well, it's like this. It's just like this, except it's obviously bigger. It's molded in like damn near the exact color that the paint ends up coming out in. Like super, super cool. Yeah, Dibbles, it's on the bad side of town, but the houses and schools are really interesting. Very old San Antonio. Well, I gotta find out where the bad part of San Antonio is now. I find myself, don't go near that hobby store. Donaldson Avenue. Right next to Pancake Joe's. God, I love maps. Doesn't look that bad from the air. Man, there's some arid looking lawns. What's this over here? I think we came close to going to San Antonio one time. You're probably gonna say, "What the fuck for?" I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't go there. It blew me away how much population it has. I mean, it's like the ninth biggest city in the United States. I'm like, what? How could it be? Like you can count them off. Okay, you got New York, L.A., Chicago. Then what? Philly. When you say Jacksonville is a really big town, but Jacksonville, they just incorporated the whole freaking county. So it's like by area, it's the largest city, but that doesn't mean it's all developed. A lot of it is just like country and shit like that. So that's a cop out. That one doesn't really count, you know. But at what point, like, it's bigger than Atlanta? I think it's bigger than Atlanta. It's bigger. It's like ridiculously big. I mean, I know Houston's bigger, but not by that much. It's like, man, when did that happen? Nobody told me, you know. I mean, I didn't think it was a small city, but I figured San Antonio was like Tampa, you know. If somebody says, "Oh, what's the population of San Antonio?" I'd be like, I don't know, 300,000. It was like 5 million or something like that. That's a lot of San Antonians. Largest cities in and they change this. The parameters of how they figure that stuff out is I remember when I was a kid, and Mexico City ended up being the biggest city by population, like 26 million or something like that. And then now I think it's like Tokyo. Right? I mean, it just changes, constantly. Maybe it's number 10. New York City, Los Angeles. Yeah, well, I knew that. Okay, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston. Yeah, it blows my mind that Houston's 4. Phoenix. How the hell is Phoenix 5? How the hell is Phoenix 5? Phoenix is a new city. I mean, it might be 100 years old, but that's a new fucking city. I mean, there was nothing in Phoenix in the 1880s. I don't think it existed. I'm just spitballing here. Philly, San Antonio number 7. That's insane. San Diego 8. That's crazy. That's crazy that San Diego is bigger than Dallas. That's insane. Yeah, Jacksonville 10. Bullshit. Yeah, you're counting the whole county. It's not. Okay. Austin. How the hell is Austin 13? I don't know. I guess you're right. Everything's changing. You know? Why isn't Atlanta on that list? No, because a lot of people that live in Atlanta don't really live in Atlanta. They live in, cities that are like the same thing, but not. Yeah, you gotta get the fuck out of there. There's too many people. Oh man. Are you a native Texan? I thought Texas was really interesting. I don't mean that ugly. I mean like it is. It's like its own category. Like, you got the North, you got the West, you got the South, and you have Texas. We're looking at jobs that Florida cities had more people than they did. Yeah. Well, we. Yeah, I guess they don't. Even some place that's like extreme, I would consider extremely built up. Miami. Miami is extremely built up. It doesn't have a high population. I don't know what I think they're just spread out everywhere. I think Miami has one of those places where like you got people. People go to jobs and they're in the city. That's where your job is. But then you live. Who knows? I mean, there's some people that must have insane commutes. Like, I can't believe that a lot of people would have a commute that's over an hour. That's like a waste of your lifetime. Because it's not a pleasant hour. Not like, oh well, I'm just looking at the scenery and look at the dolphins and there's some seals over there and the nice sunset. Oh no, it's probably white knuckle. Everybody hates you. This guy's on the suicide mode. People the whole time. People surfing on their damn phones. Doing crazy shit. Yeah, native Texan. I guess I'm native Floridian, but I don't know. Some of those people that are native Floridians are like, I've got all my toes. I'm not one of those. We have a lot of traffic issues in places that shouldn't have traffic issues. We got lots of passersby. And I can't think of any city with a high population in Florida I'd want to live in. It's just too many problems, you know? Like, oh man, a lot of people live in this city. There's lots to do. Yeah, well, you can't go to half of it because it's a war zone. Like, what good is that then? Like, Jacksonville's a rough effing place. There's also parts of it that are fine, but there's some places that are like, get me out of here. And the other thing I'm not used to, and this might be something you are used to, but to me, like bad parts of town aren't anywhere near good parts of town. Not interwoven like Jacksonville is. You'll have like you have something safe right next to a hellhole, right next to something else that's okay, right next to another hellhole. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Where were we somewhere? It was when we were in Tampa. Went to Tampa, and we stopped by a place that's open 24 hours for check cashing. Like, why do you need a 24-hour check cashing place? Like, that's not something that needs to be open 24 hours. Native Texans. So how many pair of boots do you have? I don't mean, work boots. I'm talking about like cowboy boots. How many pairs of cowboy boots do you have? Because I have none. And probably never will have any. Got snow boots. I don't have cowboy boots. You have cowboy boots and you have a horse and you have a hat. They don't make those. They don't make cowboy hats in my size. San Antonio's interwoven like that Dibbles place. The neighborhood has a Spanish-style high school and beautiful homes. And then the main street next to it is all this crazy third world country. Yeah, I know. I love all that Spanish-style stuff. It like pleases my heart. If it's done right, like it's happy. The problem with it is tile roofs are a bad idea because you have to have a roof they're really heavy, and you have to have a roof then all of a sudden that has to support this thing to keep from caving in on you and killing everyone on board. They're like really heavy, and they look nice until you've got to like pressure wash it, because it gets all moldy and stuff. But well, I will tell you one thing though. There's a lot of third world countries that have Spanish style houses. Oh man. One thing that's really common in Spanish style third world countries is having walls around your property. And at the top of your wall, really high walls. Like, I'm not talking like a fence, I'm talking like a fucking wall. And at the top of your wall, you've got this, if it's like a 8 by 8 by 16 block wall, right? At the top of it, there's this layer of mud, usually in a semicircle, and they'll stick like freaking glass and shit on it, like broken bottles. So, you can't, if you wanted to climb over that, you would be met with, disaster. You'd be cut to ribbons. No boots, no hats. I think the only thing Texan about me is what I eat. I'm all about the Tex-Mex. As a general rule, well, we had Tex-Mex tonight. As a general rule, I like Tex-Mex, but easy on the Mex stuff. Man, there is just nothing better than mesquite, is there? I mean, mesquite is freaking amazing. Although, if you go to Bucky's, Bucky's found a way to fuck up mesquite chips because their mesquite chips are garbage. I don't know how. We discovered when we went to Colorado, of all places. I think it was in Colorado. That Hatch stuff. That Hatch chili. Man, anything that's Hatch chili is amazing. I guess I'm fine with the food as long as it doesn't look like it's been pre-masticated. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that Tex-Mex food that just like looks like Ethiopian food. You know what I'm talking about. It looks like mashed potatoes, or like everything. This should look like refried beans. Refried beans. That's the only thing. Nobody else, nothing else should look like that. Well, we're about done with this one, and I guess that's where we're gonna have to stop for a night, because I could do this all night, but we gotta wake up to go to the salt mines, unfortunately. Only thing I get Bucky's is their beef jerky. I remember you raving about Hatch chili pepper sauce. It's amazing. It really is amazing. I didn't know about it. You know, the stuff that's still better than that though is that Momofuku stuff that's available. I don't. You guys don't have. You guys have Publix? I don't know if Publix made it out there yet. This is like a Pan Asian thing. I don't know if it's Japanese or Momofuku. Momofuku Chili Crunch. This stuff is they sell it on Shop. Black truffle. I don't know. I don't know about. Don't need to be adding this stuff right here. I have it at Target. Let's not worry about it. That stuff's freaking phenomenal. It's kind of thick too. Not as thick as marmalade, but and it's good because that way you don't waste it. You know, it's like oily marmalade. Probably a way to describe it. It doesn't. Little goes a long way. That stuff is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Yeah, get that. I want to do something with like, get like fries or something like that and put that on it and then have a Kieran. I'm upset. Give me some Japanese beer with yeah, you'll probably get a Publix soon enough. Not that it's, I try not to go there. It's gotten too expensive. Not only should you look at prices in a grocery store, but when you start looking at prices, you're like, man, what's up with these prices? $7 for a bag of chips. I guess we can go and buy any chips then, I guess. $7 for a bag. That's ridiculous. I always say in Spanish, eso no vale eso. That doesn't cost that. I'm not buying it. All right, well, this is where we're going to stop for tonight.